Welcome to Agile Business Analysis Made Simple. This is the first in a series of videos designed to make business analysis simple for anyone, regardless of if you don't even know what business analysis is, or if you perhaps know somebody who might be a BA or know a little bit about what business analysis is, or perhaps you are a BA yourself and you're just looking to expand your tool set. This is a Babak aligned training, and we will cover enough information for you to prepare for the CCBA or CBAP certification exams. And if you don't know what those are, that's fine. We'll talk about those a little bit more too in this video. My name is Amir Syed, and let's begin. So what is business analysis? Business analysis is a relatively young profession, and as such, industry standards are still being defined and they vary from company to company. Now the Babak, and we'll talk about what the Babak is in just a moment, defines business analysis as the set of tasks and techniques used to work as a liaison between stakeholders in order to understand the structure, policies, and operations of an organization and to recommend solutions that enable the organization to achieve its goals. Now, what does that mean? You might be thinking. Break it down for me, Amir. Okay, well, let's examine this statement. The set of tasks and techniques, that's simple enough, used to work as a liaison between stakeholders. What's a stakeholder? A stakeholder is anybody who might be impacted by the outcome of a project. It might be the director who's in charge of that project at your company, or it could be the end user who's going to be using whatever deliverable you guys output. So, for example, if you guys are working on a website, the end user is the person who would be using that website to perform whatever functions that website is designed to perform. That's a stakeholder. So, of course, as a business analyst, you're not going to be working with every single end user who would be using your website, but you would be working with somebody who's a stakeholder that represents all those end users and what those interests are. So the set of tasks and techniques that you would use to work as a liaison between stakeholders, and examples of other stakeholders might be somebody who represents your company's marketing interests and somebody who represents your company's budgetary interests, maybe somebody from the finance department or something like that. And there's a number of other stakeholders as well. In order to understand the structure, policies, and operations of an organization. So you're working with all these people to understand, okay, what is my company's structure? What are the policies we have in place? And what are our operations? And then, when you understand that, you should be able to recommend solutions that enable this organization to achieve its goals, in particular with your project. So that's how the Babak defines it. And again, what is Babak? We'll talk about that in just a moment. What is a business analyst? Well, a business analyst, or a BA, is a practitioner of business analysis. He works, or I should say he or she, works as a liaison among stakeholders in order to elicit, analyze, communicate, and validate requirements for changes to business processes, policies, and information systems. And that definition is provided by the IIBA. And we'll talk about what the IIBA is in just a moment also. What does all this mean? Well, basically, a BA bridges the gap of understanding between business needs and technology. So, as a business analyst, I work as a liaison among stakeholders, and we talked about what stakeholders are, in order to elicit, analyze, communicate, and validate requirements. What does that mean? Elicit means to bring them out or to draw them forth. Analyze means to think about them in a logical manner. Communicate and validate requirements, because not all requirements that are told to me as a BA might be valid requirements. See, some people on the business side of things don't necessarily understand technology, and some people on the technology side of things don't necessarily understand business. And that's not to say that they don't understand any part of those areas of the company, but different people have varying degrees of understanding in various fields. So somebody from the business side of things may not necessarily understand that there's more than one technical way to go about doing something, and perhaps one of those ways is much cheaper and more cost effective than the other way. And perhaps they're only aware of the other way. So they might tell you, okay, we need to move forward with this technical approach. Well, as a business analyst, you would work with all the stakeholders to validate which requirements are actually valid for changes to business processes, policies, and information systems. Now, a BA might be referred to by many names, depending on your company. Some names that I've seen out there include business process analyst, IT business analyst, requirements engineer, business systems analyst, data analyst, functional architect, product analyst, and I'm sure there's a lot more out there as well. These are all pretty much the same thing, and the way you can identify a business analyst position at your company is by looking at the job requirements. Typically, job requirements are very standard, and actually, a lot of times they'll use the official definition right here. They'll say something like, "We're looking for somebody to work as a liaison among stakeholders." Between business and technology. So they'll simplify it a bit, but liaison is a term that's used quite often to describe a business analyst. What does all this mean? Again, a BA helps business people and technology groups work in sync with one another. So let me give you an example. If you think about account registration, and this could be for any account registration, it could be your email account, or it could be just setting up a user ID and password for whatever company that you might be able to think of. Um, just think about it for a moment. As a business analyst, when you work on a project around account registration, you would need to take several things into consideration. And some of these things are related to business interests and technology interests. For example, what is my budget, right? Because based on budget, we can figure out, well, how many developers we can hire, how many testers we can hire, how what are we looking at as far as costs of this project and our budget for this project, right? Milestone dates. Well, when is this project due? You might have very hard dates. Maybe your project is tied to a marketing campaign, and you need to make sure that by the time the marketing people are set to start advertising your product or feature, maybe by TV commercials or billboards or something, that the product is actually ready to go. So that when people look at these advertisements and decide to check your product or feature out, it's actually there for them to see. So, or sometimes you might have just soft dates, right? Maybe it's not tied to something as strict as a marketing milestone. Maybe you just need to get it out in time for, Christmas, let's say, which would actually also be a very hard date in reality. Um, what are the business rules? What is the voice of the customer, right? When you talk about voice of customer, let's talk about the voice of the customer when it comes to account registration. How many times have you tried to set up a user ID only to be told that your user ID has already been taken? And you're sitting there and you're trying a different one, and now you're trying a third one, and it's just telling you, hey, this one's taken, try another. Wouldn't it be nice? And some websites actually do this. Wouldn't it be nice if they gave you a suggestion for what you could try? And wouldn't it be even nicer if their suggestions were based around your previous attempts, or maybe other information about you, like your first name or last name, or things like that? So the voice of the customer is basically, trying to think about, from a customer perspective, how can we make things easier? How can we simplify things for the customer? Because if we make something easy to understand and simple to use, the likelihood of them actually wanting to use it would increase. Resource capacity, right? We talked about this a little bit. How many people do we have on the project, right? And what is their capacity? I have a developer on my project, but he's splitting time between this project and another project, right? So how much of his time is he allocating to this project? Well, that all goes into resource capacity, right? Technical constraints. Um, a technical constraint might be something along the lines of, let's talk about account registration one more time, right? Maybe latency, right? And latency is referring to the amount of time that it takes for your website or system to refresh with new information, right? Because in the time that it's refreshing, it's actually doing something in the background, right? So you try user ID and it tells you this user ID is taken. Well, how does it know that? In the background, it has to check with a database of all user IDs that have already been made prior to you trying to make your user ID. So it goes and checks with the database in the background and it finds a match and it tells you, sorry, this one's taken, right? Well, that takes a certain amount of time. Might take a fraction of a second, might take longer. It depends on a number of things. It could depend on your internet connection speed. It could connect on the bandwidth of the system and servers involved, or it could also have something to do with where that server or database is located, right? What if that website is based in a country all the way across the world from you? Well, it's going to take longer to hit that database. So, there are a number of considerations that you have to take or think about when you talk about technical constraints. Another technical constraint might be maybe encryption, right? Maybe you were creating an encrypted account, and encryption could impact you as well, because you need to have the capacity to encrypt and decrypt information. So if you don't have that built into your technical framework, you would require other time or additional time to build that in so that you can allow for encrypted data to be passed back and forth. And then there's also revenue considerations or things that are important to the business, right? So you want to make sure that whatever feature that you are designing or whatever product you're working on, uh, it, can it be monetized? And if so, how can it be monetized? And then a business analyst is the person who provides recommendations, right? So potential workarounds or alternate technical strategies. Going back to the Babok and IIBA, just like I promised you. So the Babok is a guide to the business analysis body of knowledge. Right now it's on version 3.0 and is published by the IIBA, or International Institute of Business Analysis. The IIBA is an independent, non-profit professional association serving the growing field of business analysis. They also grant professional certifications, including the CCBA and CBAP, or the CBAP. Now, the CCBA and CBAP are professional certifications for business analysis professionals granted by the IIBA, and currently they're the highest international standards in BA competency. Note, BAs come from a wide range of backgrounds. This is a good thing since BAs can use their personal background experience with BA skills to bring a unique perspective to an organization, which encourages fresh outlooks and ideas. Certifications are not required, but they can be an added benefit to you as a business analyst candidate for a company. CCBA, this stands for Certification of Competency in Business Analysis. It's the intermediate level designation, and you can see here what the eligibility criteria is to take your CCBA certification exam. And then the CBAP, this is the advanced level designation, stands for Certified Business Analysis Professional. And you can see here what the criteria is for that one. So to summarize, what is a BA? A BA is a jack of all trades. He comes from all walks of life. He's business oriented, he's technical minded, and most importantly, he's a solutionist. Thanks for watching my video. Be sure to check out the other videos in my series.